What challenges have you faced with designing and conducting your own research for the first time?
Well, I mean, throughout the process, I think you're constantly learning, and you're learning about the limitations that you have in terms of the data that you can collect, and then later the limitations you have in terms of your analysis.
Having a breadth of knowledge and determining clinical relevance of questions, which will be interesting at that particular time. And then, secondly, if you do come up with relevant questions with the help of your colleagues or mentors, I think kind of meeting timelines in terms of data collection, acquisition, and then interpretation.
Mentorship is so important, and working with great people and inspiring folks has really made it possible.
What are your opinions on physicians using social media, and what, if anything, do you use it for?
I think social media is now critical. A lot of us are, now thumb-centric. We have smartphones. We are always on the smartphones, looking at what's going on in the world. Late-breaking clinical trials.
It's been particularly interesting watching things come through for late-breaking clinical trials, because as they come out live, you hear commentary within minutes as you're sitting in the crowd. So it's just another nice addition to keep up not just with what gets published in papers, but also with different individuals who you respect their opinions on science as it breaks through.
If we want to do it, we have to really show consolidated data that already made through the guidelines, or they're about to make through the guidelines, like there are 2 or 3 studies in a row showing something. I think we should not just say, hey, I like this paper.
Things like Twitter, maybe less so Facebook, things like that, provide an opportunity for you to connect to people that you might not otherwise get to connect to, and for you to put out your own message, your own voice, at a meeting like this or in your daily life, to say, this is what I'm thinking about now.
And of course, we have to be a little discreet in terms of using social media, and has to be used appropriately. But I think it's a wonderful tool in terms of connecting with people, in terms of getting opinions out, and discussing future steps.
What is your take on radiation safety, and what practice changes should be made to protect operators?
So radiation safety is very close to my heart. Our group recently published several articles in radiation safety, especially at fellow level. How can you change fellow behavior? One thing I would say is fellows are much more malleable in terms of practices, because they don't have set ways, and we are kind of the target population to bring about radiation safety.
I just started wearing this kooky hat, this RadPad hat that protects my head from radiation, and have had a chance to demo things like zero gravity, lead system, where the lead actually hangs from a machine or hangs from the top of the cath lab.
I mean, we're in this for the long haul, and it's something that we don't necessarily think about as much when we're as dedicated to patient care, and we're not necessarily thinking about what's going on with us. But there's pretty simple changes that can be made that can really have a pretty profound effect on exposures.
For certain procedures, for example, peripherals, where many times we don't have the shield, we don't have protection, new technologies has to come and develop to protect us. And I think that's a great field for research, and great field for industries to develop, but still not yet there.
What advice would you give to a medical student or resident considering specializing in interventional cardiology?
I think most important is just to try to expose yourself to it early. Make sure that it's something you could really see yourself doing, something you're excited about when you wake up every day. Trying to get as much time in the lab or around operators, and really just experiencing what the day-to-day process will be like.
Just try to understand what's happening and why it's happening and what's the future on that. Don't just be a consumer of information. Try to create information.
Interventional cardiologists have a lot of similarities with surgeons, but you go down the path of training in internal medicine, and you should really love internal medicine and enjoy doing that, because it's really important and it's a large amount of your training.
I think that will be good to experience as much as possible, possibly in the cath labs of their institutions, and work with people who do this day in and day out, kind of understand what is it that this specialty offers.